That was good. Now, I've probably been back home maybe 2 months now. Again, like I said before, I came from the Philippines. I lived there for 11 years. So, being there for as long as I was, it's like super difficult for me to reprogram myself to not using Filipino terminology and phrases when I'm having like conversations with people, wherever it may be. So, oftentimes I'll throw out a Filipino phrase or a comment or something like that, and the people will look at me like I'm crazy because they're like, what are you talking about? Whatever I'm saying doesn't make sense to them, respectfully and rightfully so. Now, because of that, I explained to them, I said, my bad, I've been out the country for a minute, and I just got back. And then I'm like, oh, where were you at? And then how long you were there? And then, maybe the conversation will take an interest going towards that direction about, they'll start asking me questions about the Philippines. But the one question that I get the most often is, they ask me, should they learn to speak Tagalog? Of course, that's the Philippine national language. Should they learn to speak it before they go to the Philippines? Now, from my personal perspective, I'll give you the answer, and then some may agree, some may disagree. And if there's anything else you want to know or any other questions after this video, if you want to ask, just comment below. Maybe subscribe to the channel if you feel like it, because I'll be telling you everything that I know about the Philippines and everything that, anything and everything you want to know, I'll help you out. Anyways, despite all that, we'll get to the video. All right. Now, in my personal opinion, it is not necessary for you to learn to speak Tagalog before you get into the country. Now, again, I say it's not necessary. It's not necessary. And I'll explain to you why it's not necessary in a minute. From the time that most Filipinos are in grade school to the time that they graduate from college, there is at least one English course that they are required to take. And also, when you're in college, 95% of the time, they are required to speak English in the classroom. I would allot the other 5% to Filipino subjects. Now, they have Filipino history, and also they, in some areas like where I lived in Davao City, shout out, and they speak Bisayan. That's their dominant language in that region. They don't speak Tagalog. I mean, Tagalog is more necessary in the capital city, which is Manila, which is where you'll fly in if ever you decide to come to the Philippines. Now, in Manila, it's dominant, but in Davao City, they speak Bisayan. So they may take a Tagalog course wherein they're required to speak Tagalog in the classroom as opposed to speaking English. Now, again, that's like every now and again, that's not in every course. Or that's not like every year, I'm sorry. So although they may be required to speak, Tagalog sometimes, the dominant language in Davao is Bisayan, and on Cebu, it's Cebuano. So in every area, there's a different dialect almost. There's like almost 1,000 plus dialects. I know that may be exaggerating, I'm not sure. Comment, let me know if that's more or less correct. But there's like a language coming up in that country like every day. But it's funny. But anyways, I'll say that it's not necessarily required for you to learn to speak Tagalog before you get to the country. But thing is, actually, I'm sorry, let me get back to it. Most Filipinos speak English mainly because the number one industry that most recent graduates get into is call center agencies. And of course, when you deal with call centers, you're dealing with international customers, Americans such as myself, and Australian and other parts of Great Britain. You deal with those kind of clients because that's just what the job explains, and that's what the job tells you to do. Now, because of that, they learn English and they pick it up very fast. And one thing I can say about living in that country, they pick up on things very, very quickly, rather quickly. So I do give them respect on that. There's a truck coming. Yeah, I'm outside. It's supposed to be the first day of spring, but it's still cold out here, man. North Carolina, it's still cold. Anyway, like I was saying before, I don't think it's necessary to speak the language, but what I will say is that it will not hurt you to learn a few common phrases and things like that in order to, conversate with, regular things like that. So, for example, from a male perspective, I learned Tagalog for the specific purpose of flirting with girls. I'll be honest, I did. That was the one reason why I learned it. I said, I'm an honest guy, I ain't gonna lie to you. I mean, that's just the way it was for me. I thought that it would be a good way to impress women, and it's true. I mean, not just women, but Filipino women. Now, it's very true. It's very, very, very impressive to hear foreigners speak in Tagalog. I mean, they like it. They find it flattering that you're taking the opportunity or taking the time to learn to speak the language, to break down the language barrier between us and everything like that. You know, so if you're, you know, if you have a girlfriend or online dating or something like that, it won't hurt you to throw out a few Filipino phrases in your conversation, you know, even if it's, you know, even if it doesn't sound right or even if it comes out wrong. They may laugh, they may giggle, but they're not picking on you. They'll just find it flattering that you're, you know, taking the opportunity to at least advance your knowledge of their language. You know, it shows an effort. So, again, it's not necessary, but it's definitely brownie points for, you know, learning the language, you know, especially if you're trying to impress a girl. If you're a girl and you're going to the Philippines, if you have a plan to travel there or you have a friend or somebody you conversate with online, it's good to learn the language. Just, you know, to say that you learned a second language, especially if you have a plan to visit there. I mean, I'll always believe the Philippines is a very, very beautiful place. It's always going to be my second home, personally. So, for me, I think it's a good idea to learn it. But like I was saying before, Tagalog is not necessarily an easy language to learn, but once you learn it, I mean, it's gonna stick with you forever. Every now and again, you know, I'll have a hard time speaking it, but I learned enough to be able to listen and understand, but I'll respond in English, you know, sometimes. But like I was saying, I'm gonna get back to the topic. Anyway, like I was saying, you're not necessarily required to learn it, but it would definitely be a good idea to learn it. Like when I first arrived to the Philippines, you know, you arrive in the immigration area, everybody speaks English, of course, because if they don't speak English, they can't conversate with you and ask you questions why you here and all that stuff. But anyway, you know, when I first got here and I was trying to learn the language, I bought books. That was my way of learning. And the first time I pronounced Tagalog, I pronounced it Tagalog or was it Tagalog? You know, because I was typical American, you know, you have that typical American accent. You know, and some girls found it cute. You know, they know that I was actually trying to do something, and you know, that's usually a common question when you're over there. The first question I'll ask you is, "Oh, do you know how to speak the language?" And again, for me personally, I tell them no, even though I know most of it. I'll tell them no, just in case they try to like talk stuff behind your back. It's better to just deny it so that you can listen to it and understand what they're saying, just in case they're trying to like get over on you. So for that specific purpose, that would be a good reason why you should learn the language. You know, and you don't even have to tell people that you're actually speaking it. So again, if there's anything else you want to know, comment below. If this video was helpful, let me know. If there's anything else you want to know, comment, let me know. I'll take care of it for you, because you know, I feel like I have a wealth of knowledge about the country and things like that, so that I can help you out. So again, salamat. Thank you very much. And you guys have a good day.